Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Alicia. So this video is actually quite exciting and also a really fun video to stumble upon if you're new here to my channel because it is my very first nursing school video. So a few weeks ago, I was accepted into an accelerated nursing program. It's a 12-month program for my RN and BSN, so it's quite intensive and aggressive program, but I'm so looking forward to it because it is a post-bac program, which is great because, you know, the second time around in college, I want to be in and out. So I thought for my very first video about nursing school, it's only right to talk about the nursing school interview. I thought for my version of the video, I would share a bit about my experience and how I prepared for the interview, which gave me enough confidence to kind of rock through the interview. So firstly, I highly recommend just binge watching videos on YouTube, reading blog posts about the interview process, and going through different questions because I find that preparing and over-preparing for the interview is what will allow you to be the most successful when it is your turn to answer questions, especially when, in my experience, my interview was online via Zoom. It was myself and 3 applicants, so having an interview alone 1v1 is kind of scary, but also having an interview with 3 other applicants in the same call is extra scary. So I'm very glad that I over prepared for my interview. So I will leave a link to a video that I found was super helpful. I think it's titled 10 Most Difficult Nursing School Interview Questions. It's a good 30-minute video, but it's extremely helpful because she provides expert answers, which helped me craft my own responses. So I will leave that in the description, and we'll also have the example questions that I used to help me prepare. So how I prepared was literally writing down the questions that I thought would help me in the interview. So I have my notebook here. I wrote it down. It's pretty sloppy because I would go in and cross things out as I was saying them out loud and realizing it didn't really make sense, or it's kind of stretching with my response, and I would edit them on my notebook, and I use this as sort of a guide to help me answer questions. I find a lot of times this may just be me, but because I get very nervous in interviews, I tend to just go blank mentally. I just forget everything. I completely black out. So kind of memorizing a few key points in my responses was extremely helpful. So while preparing, my school also sent me 4 example questions 24 hours before the interview, which I was actually asked 3 out of the 4 during my real interview. So if your school does send you questions to help you prepare, definitely read them and go through responses to help prepare you, because 9 times out of 10, those are the questions that will be asked in the actual interview. In my notebook, I wrote down the 4 questions my school gave me, and I also included some questions that I thought would probably be asked in the interview, especially questions revolving around vaccines, since that is a very hot topic in healthcare nowadays. So I'm going to read through the 4 questions that my school sent me, and like I said, I will also have in the description box the additional questions that I used to help prepare myself for my interview. So the first question my school gave me is, why have you chosen nursing over all other healthcare professions? And this question was worded a little bit differently from what I saw online. Most questions were revolving around, why did you choose nursing? But this one also goes into over all other healthcare professions, meaning maybe a physician or maybe physical therapist, whatever it may be. Well, this question also warrants most times a very cliche response of, oh, I've always wanted to be a nurse. I've always wanted to help others. And I'm sure many people actually do feel that way. I myself do feel that way as well. I feel as though I've always had a passion for helping others, but the person asking that question has probably heard that a million times before. So it's important to craft a response that makes you stand out and also sound very unique. So in my experience, I talked about having and living with a partner who's type 1 diabetic, and how since living together, it's really inspired me to work in healthcare. The second question I was given is, what 3 attributes/characteristics do you believe are vital to making a nurse successful? Which one of these 3 do you embody the most, and why? So this was actually quite a lengthy response because it asked for 3 attributes, and I find in these type of questions you shouldn't just list them, such as empathy, critical thinking, and the ability to work with others. You shouldn't just list them off and not explain how they pertain to you and why you embody them. So I did give examples about how I embody empathy and how I'm a critical thinker through my experience working in restaurants and having to be quick on my feet. And then I also gave the example of how I'm always willing to learn, hence why I'm seeking a new career and my second college degree. I find with a question like this, and they ask you what attributes you have, it's very good to give examples. So for instance, I gave particular examples of me working in restaurants and how I've worked with a very diverse team where there's been language barriers, but I'm still able to communicate effectively, which is very important and can highly relate to being a nurse. So the third question I was asked is, what is one accomplishment you're most proud of? And you can take this many different ways. You can talk about your academic accomplishments, you can talk about personal accomplishments, and for me, I kind of did a mix of the two because my biggest accomplishment is graduating within 3 years for my first degree. It's a weird goal I set up for myself when I was in college, and I was able to attain that goal even though I had a major life change at the time. So I kind of went into a little bit of personal detail, which I feel as though is fine as long as you're comfortable with that. And then the last question I was asked from my school is, why would you make an excellent nurse? And this again is a question that I'm sure everyone has been asked during the interview process. So again, you just want to be realistic and you don't want to give an answer that is very cliche. You want to make it unique to yourself. So again, I used personal experience and previous work experience to help answer this question. So for instance, again, I'll go back to the example of me working in restaurants. I'm very used to having double shifts, being on my feet for 12 hours. So I have that experience of long work hours. So the last type of question that I'll kind of chat about on this video is the very stereotypical, tell us about yourself. And this was somewhat asked in my interview. It was more of like, oh, tell us your name and where you're from. So I wasn't really able to dive deep into my whole tell us about yourself response. But basically, my biggest advice for this type of question is to tell a story. Don't just give a full list of, oh, I'm Alicia, I'm from New Jersey, I have my bachelor's in public relations. It should be said in a way that is told in a story. So for my response that I kind of wrote up for myself, it started off with my college experience for the first time, my degree that I obtained, and then it went into what I did afterwards, and then what led me up to making my decision to apply to nursing school. So kind of had like an intro, a middle, and a conclusion like a story does. So those were the 4 questions I was asked during my interview. I definitely recommend just watching tons of videos and over preparing. I also did a mock interview with myself. I would pretend to be the interviewer and also be the interviewee, and I also asked Chris to help me with a mock interview. So if you have any family or a close friend, definitely grab them. Even you do it remote, you can do it over Zoom or FaceTime and just send them the questions and do a mock interview. This way you can better prepare for your actual interview. Another tip I have is if you are doing the interview online through Zoom or Google Meet, whatever it may be, I definitely recommend lighting a candle or even having your favorite diffuser scent nearby, because I know that helps me calm down during my interview. My last little tip is to do something called a power stance. And I know this sounds super corny and I don't remember where exactly I learned this. It might have been through public speaking when I was in college. But if you do something called a power stand, where you sort of like stand up and you like roll your shoulders back and you feel very powerful, it's kind of like a superhero pose. It does something to your body and your psyche that makes you feel a lot more confident about yourself, and it helps to take down the nerves. So I definitely recommend doing that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. I definitely recommend watching the video that I will link below, because she is such an expert in interviewing for nursing students and she gave a lot better advice than I could possibly ever give. But I thought this would be a fun video while all the interview questions are still fresh in my mind. So if you guys did find this video helpful, please give a big thumbs up. Do not forget to hit subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.